Hi, and welcome everyone to the Future Travel Experience webinar. We had a very interesting session today, and as promised, I want to give you a little bit more insight into how the concepts that we discussed in our great think tank session can actually be applied through real technology that already exists and that we have live as we speak. A few words about Omnivo. Omnivo is a company that was created from AOE's aviation division through the merger with a leading in-flight and catering management provider from France called Shifteo. And Omnivo, as a company, we've set out into the world to power transformation for mobility providers and help them become digital revenue leaders. And you might know us and all of the founders of Omnivo from the projects and work that we have done within AOE also already over the years, including projects like Heathrow's Boutique, Singapore Airlines Chris Shop, the Frankfurt Airport Marketplace Solution, and many more. And so, as said, we are not a new company, we are just a new name, but the same players and even more advanced technology that we have built over the last few years. Now, why is a digital approach so key to mastering airline revenue and mastering recovery for an airline? If we look at the IATA cabin waste handbook, it says very clearly, in order to generate waste and cost savings, airline must simplify the in-flight service and reduce waste, which starts with digitization. So it's a very clear trend that what is currently happening in F&B and what happened pre-COVID is a highly inefficient operation. It's a big cost center for airlines, and it is ripe for disruption and it is ripe for transformation. If we're looking at some of the interesting statistics from the last couple of years, in 2017, approximately 5.7 million tons of food were wasted, and 20% of that was untouched food and beverage, costing the sector almost $1 billion. So this is the primary target that we believe that through digitalization of the customer journey around F&B, but also around retail, which I will come to in a minute, has major opportunity for savings and increasing sustainability. In fact, the global catering market is forecast to grow to about $22.4 million by 2025, with an average food waste annually of 20 to 30%. That means that in 1 year alone, food waste will be in the range of $6 to $8 billion. This is, of course, also something that becomes increasingly difficult to argue to passengers when they ask questions about sustainability. In fact, the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals has made it a clear target to reduce food waste for airlines and has set a target to cut global food waste per head in half by 2030. Now, what matters for F&B matters as well for travel retail. Before COVID-19, airlines, airports, and travel retailers were highly dependent on customers shopping on impulse, on the plane, on board, at the airport, in stores. This has changed significantly through the disruption that COVID has created, and it has created a new wave of customer behavior that had already happened before COVID and has now been accelerated significantly. In fact, if you think about it, COVID has caused the adoption of e-commerce to accelerate by what would have usually taken 5 to 10 years based on the normal trajectory of e-commerce, has condensed it into a period of just 4 to 5 months. And when I think about that, even my parents are now ordering all of their stuff online, this has changed the way that people consume, the people shop, the people decide what they want, and so on. And this, of course, entails food and beverage as well. We have all gotten used to getting our food home delivered during this pandemic. We haven't gone to restaurants. We haven't, gone on planes. And I believe very strongly that when we return to the skies, people will perceive airlines as being extremely old school. The fact that you cannot pre-order your food across classes, that you cannot make real decisions about what you want to eat, and that you cannot even pay to get something better to eat on board, is something that people will show very little understanding for, because they have gotten used to Deliveroo and Uber and so on, and being able to get the food from their favorite restaurant at any time home delivered. And so airlines need to think about how this massive change in customer behavior will also affect the happiness of their passengers and the ability of satisfying their customers. So when you're thinking about how much food and beverage and travel retail actually has in common in regards to the logistics, the target audience, the spend per passenger, how you're trying to address them, etc., there's actually no reason whatsoever that food and beverage and travel retail should be separated for airlines. It should be one seamless process, and this is what we are doing already with our existing customers. And nowadays, a travel journey very clearly starts at home. And I want to show you what this journey can look like based on the approach that we have started to take. Now, if we're looking at the different pieces of the journey, whether it's pre-trip engagement, from home, while en route, while at the airport, in flight, post-flight, and then the ability to also add delivery options across that, this creates numerous touch points in which digital selling and upselling and offering and pre-order and pre-selecting can happen, as long as it is all powered by one centralized IT ecosystem that makes it possible to personalize, to recommend, to integrate with loyalty, to be at every touch point at the journey. And this is where previously technology has fallen short significantly, and manual processes have not been able to achieve the penetration and achieve the single point of data, the consistent analytics, and so on. If we start with pre-trip marketing, where these services can be offered to the passengers before they're flying, choose your meal, upgrade your meal if you want to spend more and get something healthier. What are the retail options? How can I combine that? How can I grow from there? How can I make sure that the products that I bring onto the plane are actually products that have been purchased, that want to be consumed, or that want to be received, and I no longer carry products on the plane that will simply be thrown away because no one buys them, no one eats them, and I create tremendous amounts of waste. The same en route, being able to make these kind of decisions about what I would like to eat or what I still need on the plane because I forgot maybe some cable for my laptop, or I forgot to get a gift for the customer that I'm going to visit. These are all cases where last minute and last mile logistics and integrated with an e-commerce solution that goes across all channels becomes extremely relevant. But then that journey, of course, should not stop when coming in flight. It requires the same customer data, the same products, the different touch points, but in essence, it is only a continuation of that journey. And in the past, this is where the cut in the experience has been the most drastic, where the in-flight experience is so completely different from what you can get on the ground. And again, this is only possible through the right technology that we have achieved over the last years, with deep integration into IFE, with proprietary buy on board solutions, with integration into the onboard equipment, etc. Even in a low connectivity environment, or in a no connectivity environment, to create this kind of choice and the ability to cross and upsell. So let's talk about a few real-life KPIs, because it's easy to say this is a vision and it would be nice if we do that, but we're doing this already in many different places with airlines and airports around the world. So the first example that I want to show you is what we have been doing with Singapore Airlines, who had decided to take the opportunity to develop Chris Shop, their retail offering, into an omni-channel, digital-first value proposition that no airline had ever done to that extent. And the success of the program has been tremendous. Although the last year was dominated by very few passengers and extreme disruption to travel, the revenues on Chris Shop have actually quintupled in that period. And what we created together there with the fantastic team at Chris Shop is really a benchmark in how an airline can become a digital retailer, a marketplace that creates real sense of place and creates customer experiences that exceed anything that an airline has done in the past, with powerful brand relationships in the premium segment that drives engagement, that drives advertising revenue, and that ultimately drives very impressive KPIs, growing the amount of products that can be sold as an airline from the mere 300 to 500 that you can typically sell on board to more than 30,000 products in an entire marketplace setting, and really transforming a model from a onboard first model to a digital first model, where onboard becomes more of an augmentation of the digital business and not the other way around, how it is with most airlines out there in the world. But the same counts for food and beverage. One of the most recent projects to have gone live on the Omnivo platform is Air Arabia. And already from the very first weeks of inception, the KPIs that are coming out of that are very impressive. In fact, Air Arabia has managed to achieve a 70% rate of food being pre-ordered, out of which 40% is pre-bundled, which in turn has reduced the amount of waste and product that gets brought onto the plane that is not ends up being sold to a fraction of what it was before. In fact, the savings are expected to be in the range of 80% on food waste and process cost, while at the same time making it possible to, for example, go into selling other ancillaries on board and pre-boarding and from home, and high adaptability to the processes of the airline. Many of you have heard of our work in the past on Heathrow Boutique, which in 2019 was the most successful digital airport operator, with a very high percentage of the sales being digitally influenced. You might have heard the statistic of them selling one Swiss watch every 15 minutes. Very high increases in basket value. So the experience that we have gathered from working with airports and airlines in the past has led to this moving together of the different parts in that customer journey, even to the extent that we have worked with multiple rail operators like Eurostars or TGV in France and helped them change their retail program to be a digital retail program, with buy on board, with significant sales growth, massive reduction in food and beverage waste, a strong reduction in theft and fraud, etc., etc. So now, if you think about it, with the right approach, what you can achieve on multiple fronts is really impressive. On the one hand, it is waste reduction. On the other hand, it is an improve in sustainability, which will become more and more important going forward for customers to accept also flying with an airline. And of course, the boosted customer satisfaction. The expectations towards food quality have increased so much in recent years that simply getting every passenger the same meal, out of which many stay untouched, is not an alternative in the future anymore. It has to go into more choice, more flexibility, and less waste. And what that ultimately leads to is actually developing what used to be a major cost center into a real profit center for an airline. And this is something that we can really not get enough of right now. Thinking about airlines being for the next 9 months probably in a situation where up to 70% of the flights will be on vouchers and miles, the time until real cash flow will come back into the airline ecosystem will be quite extended. So increasing spend per passenger and reducing cost will be an absolute priority. And this is what we are here to do. We are here to help. We have created a very unique suite of solutions that cover the entire value proposition, from catering management to pre-order, pre-select, to buy on board, to home delivery, whether it's e-commerce services or food and beverage, all that integrated with any caterer, any supplier, drop shipper, with all of the channels that an airline can accommodate, and also the ability to integrate it with retailers at the airport, the airports, service operations, and so on. So it is truly a unique proposition that will solve a lot of the challenges of the past digitally, because they were so difficult to solve operationally. And in the end, through digitalization, get the capability to double ancillary revenue, triple conversion on digital sales, have a significant impact on sustainability, and most of all, create an experience that leads to a much improved NPS score. And this is something where, frankly, especially the full service carriers will have to focus on a lot in the future, as so much of the service has been stripped away, that the distinction between full service and low-cost carriers in many regions have become too slim. And so this focus on customer expertise, customer excellence, and choice is something that really has to come back in a meaningful way for full service carriers to compete in this ecosystem. So I guess that leaves me with a question: do you still do your business yesterday, or have you already arrived in today? And I'm very happy to have many discussions with you following this webinar. Please add me on LinkedIn. You can see the QR code here. And I'm looking forward to having some fruitful discussions about what your priorities are for your airline, and where you see this all moving in the future. So thank you very much for listening, and talk to you soon.